Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about Arma 3, how to make your enemy AI more unpredictable and more formidable enemy. And this will provide some replayability to your missions, and essentially it's going to be different every time. So we're going to leverage some BIS functions that Bohemia Interactive has provided in Arma 3. We're going to leverage markers and some triggers to change their behavior. Okay, because if you just place guys on a map, you can get some different spawn points with radius and things of that nature, and you can trigger them. However, if you script them in, you can really get an unpredictable enemy, and your missions are going to be different every time, even if it's the same mission. And that's what we're striving for, is a formidable enemy to fight against with some unpredictability that provides challenges. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the mission itself. It looks pretty complicated, right? There's a lot going on here, but you don't see hardly any enemies on here. We have one, which is an officer, and we have him. Basically, he's an Easter egg. Looks like Saddam Hussein. If you get him, you get a little task completed thing. He's not always easily found because he is, as you can see, we did exactly what I was talking about. Is we put a spawn radius in here of 500, so he could be. We have him here. He's going to spawn within a 500-meter radius, 5 of these boxes, anywhere from here. Okay, so reason I did that was because it's quick and dirty, and it's just one guy. Okay, and he's not going to change his behavior at all. He's just going to go to a waypoint and hang out there. Um, the rest of these guys were spawning in with a trigger that starts at the beginning of the mission. Okay, and we'll walk through this code. But what's important to note here is with the 3D enhanced, which you can get from the workshop, it adds some great functionality to the editor. For instance, this checkbox, server only, I actually have this called here in the condition, is server, okay? And trigger activate to get enemy volume. We'll talk about this in a different demo, as this is a way to set parameters at the beginning of your mission where you could say, I want more enemies to spawn in. You could do a small, medium, large, okay, and it would call 3 different triggers. So in this instance, it would call this small one because that's what we have it set up for, but we're really not leveraging it in this mission. What this mission consists of are 3 drones on the ground. So if we go here, we have a drone here. We need to destroy it. We have 2 other ones in the map. And this is loosely based upon um, Checkpoint for Insurgency. We love that game. We don't play it anymore because we feel like ARM is a lot better. But that's what we've designed this about. Um, so yeah, in the what we want, we have a marker 1. Okay, this is just a system marker. A marker 2, and a marker 3, or marker 0 rather. 3 markers to really, those are the initial points where we're going to have these objectives, okay? And it's just a simple system marker. There's nothing special about it. But what we're going to do is leverage that to come up with these safe positions. A safe position, this is a function designed by Bohemia Interactive that's going to allow us to come up with a safe position to spawn in our enemies. This consists of an array. So the center, like I said, we're going to leverage that marker 0, and we're going to have 5 positions around marker 0 where our enemies are going to spawn in. So if you see down here, we have safe position 1 through 5, and we're going to spawn in groups 1 through 5 on those positions. Okay? What does this array mean? Well, we have some things that we have defined here. So we have the center, which is our marker. which we've called here, marker 0, get marker position, marker 0, that's going to be our center. We're going to have a minimum distance. We want them to spawn at least 50 meters away and at maximum 100 meters away from that center position. Okay? The third or the fourth piece of our array here is water mode. We do not, I'm sorry, it's going to be maximum distance, or object distance. So if there are any objects within this radius, like rocks, trees, buildings they may not be able to get into, we want to make sure that they spawn at least 3 meters away from any object. So that's what we're defining there. And then last thing I've defined here is water. We don't want them to spawn in water because they're just going to be swimming around and not really doing anything other than being basically fish in a fishbowl. You're just going to be plopping their heads off as they're swimming around. So that's what we've defined here are these safe positions. Now, if we go back to this mission, we have those 3 markers, but we have other markers here as well. On these markers, we're leveraging these 4 markers here. We're leveraging to spawn in enemy patrols, recon patrols, teams of 2 that are going to make our life miserable getting from one objective to the other. Okay? So we'll have 3, 6, 5, and 4. 3, 4, 5, 6, those markers. They're defined here. And we're actually giving them a little more leeway. We want them to spawn up to 50 to 300 meters away from those markers. And then these safe positions are going to be leveraged to spawn in some groups as well. We're going to leverage these positions. And as you can see, we're calling on recon sentries. Those are spec op teams of 2 that have some pretty awesome weapons that are the AK-17, which I know a lot of people probably hate, but we love shooting that gun. We're giving the enemy that gun to hunt us as well. What we're doing with those enemies are we're making them combat and red. So if they see you, they're going to kill you. They're going to put up a hell of a fight. They're also going to be looking for trouble with the combat behavior mode. The other ones that are patrolling around each of the objectives are just set in the aware mode for now. Okay? Because we just want them to patrol around it and basically patrol around that objective and guard it, right? They're not doing anything other than that. They're probably bored at the moment. That's what we want. What we're going to do is change their behavior as we get into that zone and we're detected. But first, we need to look at the spawn group, right? So we're leveraging these safe positions to spawn in enemies. With that, we need the BIS function spawn group, and that is a function where we can do the position, the side, all kinds of things here. But what we're doing is we're calling on the safe position 1 that we've done. The side is east. And then the config file. We need to understand what this means. This string here is essentially determined in the editor. If we go into Tools and we go to Config Viewer, you're going to see these are the enemies that we're going to spawn in. Okay? Now this is very similar to what you're going to see over here if we were to essentially spawn them in and place them on the map here. We're going to look at Tura, infantry. You got a fire team, sentry team, rifle squad. You can see what they look like, yada yada. That's the same thing that we're looking at here, but we're going to call them via this config. So you'd want to copy this. You can look at your cup people. You can look at your op4. You can find any group that you want to spawn in here. Copy that and paste it in here, right? So that's going to spawn these guys in at safe position 1. And then what we're going to do with that group is set them to aware. And then we're going to have them do the task patrol. Okay? So the task patrol is another BIS function. So we're doing the group, the position, the distance, and then it's going to create a random patrol of several waypoints around a given position. So what we want these guys to do is group 1, this squad is going to task patrol 500 meters away from safe position 1. So they're going to be out there at a pretty decent radius around that position, around that first objective, and they're going to be patrolling it. The other ones are going to be in a little tighter, right? Now, we're also spawning in vehicles. So we've got a safe position. We're calling it on markers 0, 1, and 2. These are our main markers, right? We want it to spawn in 50 to 200 meters. And we want that to be not in water and 3 meters away from any object. Okay? Vehicles, we're just going to have them patrol. We're not going to mess with their combat mode or anything. If you've ever come against these guys, the gunners in these vehicles are just incredibly accurate and mean. So we're just going to leave them stock and hope for the best. Okay, so we've covered our safe position to find out where we're going to spawn. We've covered the spawn group to find out who we're going to spawn and leverage our safe positions to do that. And then we're going to send them on task patrols. Okay. We also set the combat mode and the behavior for the recon teams in between all of these. BIS function stalk. Let's talk about that for a minute. If we want to trigger these guys to actually hunt down the player, so continuously set waypoint of one group to a different group to hunt it. This is going to provide some intensity. So how do we do that in a mission? Well, since we already have everyone spawned in, we have our 3 objectives labeled here, essentially. When these groups detect us inside this trigger, we're going to have them stalk us. So one thing I've found, since we already have the group set to aware, we need to change their behavior because I've found that the BIS function stalk only works if you change their behavior to combat in red. Otherwise, they're not going to stalk you. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So when our force is detected by OP4 in this trigger zone, it's just a simple trigger. We've set the size to 450 meters. When we're inside there and they detect us, it's going to set these guys' behavior to change to combat from aware, and we're going to turn them into meth heads basically on a mission to kill us, and they're going to come hunt us. So group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to hunt the group player. So anyone that is in the group of the player, which is blue 4 rather, they're going to come stalk us, which means hunt us down, which is what we want. This makes your enemy more unpredictable and more realistic. So if you land out here, we always start from a chopper 2,000 meters up and either hey ho or hey low in. If you come out here and you snipe, it's not going to trigger that. You can thin the herd, and then as you come into this trigger zone and they detect you, they're going to communicate essentially with each other and come hunt you. Enemy has been detected in the AO, and that's going to simulate them coming to hunt you. So this is the mission that Jimbo and I play almost nightly, and you'll see us fail or succeed at these if you watch our streams at all, but you'll see that we are fighting a very formidable enemy because of these triggers. Now, as I said, in these, from getting from here to here, we're going to have recon patrols. I believe it's 3 per marker that we've spawned in with those functions being called. I can piece out this mission because there is a lot going on. We have civilians also spawning in for more immersion. We have triggers set that when we're in the chopper, we spawn in with all the gear that we like, so that when we respawn, if we have to, we spawn with that gear rather than a parachute on our back. So I have triggers to switch out the parachute and things of that nature, which I will get into in further demos if everyone finds this one useful. But that concludes the AI. What I will do is let's play this in multiplayer quickly, and I'll show you what happens in the game. We'll go into Zeus mode, go down to one of the points, look at the patrols, and just see what it looks like as a first spawn. You'll see from the map we have 3 objectives that we can assign to destroy those drones. We are starting in a chopper, which we like to do because it allows us to parachute in wherever we want. He's just flying, loitering about 2,000 meters up. But what we want to show you is basically what's happening down here. So here they've spawned in. You can see there's civilians, but you can see we have our enemies. They're spawning in and they're going to do what they were programmed to do, is go task patrol around this objective. Okay? You're also going to see our recon guys out here in between these objectives also patrolling. So teams of 2 we've got between these objectives. Let's go find one of these other objectives out here. We'll see here that we also have our enemies spawned in and they're beginning to patrol around the objective that we need to destroy. I'll place some of these script values in so that you can see what they are. You'll need to change them due to however you may want to spawn them, whatever your marker names might be, things of that nature. But this will help you gain some immersion and some unpredictability with your AI enemies that will really up the scale of playability on your missions, because they're going to be spawning in different places. Their behavior is going to change according to how you approach the mission. I can tell you that if you land in the middle of one of these objectives, you're probably going to die fairly quickly, because what's going to happen is the guys that we have here, you figure this is around 30, 40 guys that you're going to have to fight. They're all going to detect you and go into hunt mode. So if you want to play it that way, it could be very exciting, but it's going to be very difficult. So hopefully this tutorial helps explain how you can manipulate the AI in Arma 3 utilizing the functions that are included with the game.